G'day and welcome to Beyond Sobriety, a podcast where you'll hear real stories of recovery and resilience come to life. I'm Michael and I'm an alcoholic, your host and fellow journeyer on the road to sobriety. As someone who has walked the path of addiction and found solace in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, I understand the challenges and triumphs that come with striving for sobriety. And it's with this understanding and empathy that we've created this podcast. Our purpose here at Beyond Sobriety is simple yet profound: to provide a platform where individuals can share their experience with alcoholism openly and authentically. Through candid conversation, personal narrative, and expert insights, we aim to inspire hope, foster understanding, and offer a beacon of light to those still navigating the shadows of addiction. We'd love for you to be a part of this growing community. If you find value in the stories that you hear today, please consider liking and leaving a comment and sharing this episode with somebody who might benefit from hearing it. Your support will help spread the message of hope and resilience to more people who need it. I'm Michael and I'm an alcoholic, and this is Beyond Sobriety. So we're here with Nathan. Nathan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Nathan. I'm an alcoholic, currently 7 years, 11 months sober, and 48 years of age, sadly. Closer to 50 than I'd like to admit.
Sadly. It's okay. With those years gets wisdom.
Mate, I never thought I'd make it to 30, so I think 48's a good run.
Yeah, I think a lot of us believe that at some time in our life. I generally make the joke with my wife that I don't plan to be here at certain ages, and she's like, you better be around. So she must still love me. I don't know why.
Mate, I reckon there was times in my active addictions that my wife was hoping that I wasn't going to be around much longer.
Well, I hope for your sake it's changed.
Yeah, it has. It's massively changed.
Although your house is absolutely amazing and you're in an area where they seem to measure block sizes in acres rather than square meters, it would be terrible to be in a house where, you know, your wife was still actively wishing that you weren't around. And
again, I think might be jumping ahead a bit, but my relationships with all of my family, in my immediate family, so wife and children, have drastically and radically changed and improved since recovery.
Outstanding. You know, I haven't spoken to somebody where that isn't the case.
Yeah.
Even the most horrible and toxic of relationships, I found, have been able to be, if not made 100%, at least significantly better, where they can stand to be in the same room together and actually function because of sobriety.
Yeah, absolutely. Benefits that come with working the steps.
Yeah. What kind of environment was there in your family when you were a child towards alcohol?
Mate, so I grew up in Green Valley, just outside of Liverpool. You know, my father was 40 when I was born, so it was quite an old birth, and my next sibling is 8 years older than me. The only story that comes from my christening is the amount of alcohol that was there.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't how much fun people had or whatever. It was just that it was a really well-stocked bar. There wasn't an event of any kind that my family had that wasn't alcohol-centered. So we built a garage out the back of our house in where we were living, and the first thing that was bought before cement or shovels was a couple of cases of beer to lubricate the job site. Right, and the drinking started at 9 a.m.
It's good to have your priorities straight.
Absolutely. You know, and we would go through, 5-6 cases of beer throughout the day.
Yeah.
You know, laying concrete and building frames and all that sort of stuff. Bugger knows how any of it's straight, but, you know, that's just the way work was. There wasn't anything that was done without that a beer wouldn't improve.
So are you talking about home improvements, or are you talking about an actual business?
No, it was home improvements. So, but when I say home improvements, it wasn't like knocking a door out or something like that. We extended the front of our house 1.5 meters.
Okay.
And built a garage that was a 2-car garage with a granny flat and toilet and shower attached.
Yes.
So it's a big
Yeah, it's a major job.
Yeah, and we built it because my dad was an owner builder.
Yes.
We did it on our own.
Yes.
But we started drinking at 9 a.m. My dad had a mate that was a carpenter, half drunk, walking up and down the roof trusses, you know, and there was no OH&S.
No. So how old were you during this time?
At that point, I would have been 16, 17.
Okay. So just like, I guess your informative years, your impressionable teenage years, and probably one of your first exposures to, I guess, manhood, like what it's like to be an actual man.
So I had my first drink at 14. And when I say first drink, like I'd snuck sips and mouthfuls here and there, from around 8. But the first drink I had was at 14, and I drank a bottle of Black Douglas Scotch. That was my first drink.
Yeah.
It was drink to oblivion, drink to wipe out. And at home, it was more of a social drinking atmosphere, but it was still excessive.
Yes.
But they would call themselves big drinkers.
Okay. So kind of like the typical Australian attitude of, we work hard, we play hard. Beer's a part of almost everything that we do. And I guess I've heard the old saying is, we don't trust someone who doesn't drink.
Yeah, I think it was, my dad told me that it was Frank Sinatra said, never trust someone who doesn't drink, because when they wake up in the morning, that's the best they're ever going to feel.
I hadn't heard the full saying. I've heard don't trust someone who doesn't drink before, but yeah, I didn't know it was from Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, well, I don't know. My old man might have made that up.
Maybe. Let someone else fact check us. I don't care. We'll go with that. It doesn't really matter. So you started drinking when you were, you had your first drink when you were 14. Were you actively drinking with, I guess, your dad when you were 16?
Yeah, drinking around the job site.
Yep.
Working around the house. Don't drink when you're not with me.
Loose supervision.
Yeah, if you want to call it supervision.
Sure.
We had 2 rules in my family. This is my dad telling me you can lie to anyone in this world, just not me.
Okay.
And then mum telling me his, whatever, don't tell your father. So dad told me to lie to everyone but him, and mum told me to lie to him.
Okay.
So don't drink it when you're not here. Of course, Dad.
When did it become an issue for you? Was it right from the second you picked up the first time?
So if you're asking when I look back, when was it an issue? It was an issue immediately.
Okay.
At the time, I didn't think it was in any way a problem. I was around people who drank like I drank. I was always with people who were consistently drinking and drinking to excess.
Yes.
I never had a friend or a family member who had a half a beer with dinner.
Okay.
Until I met my wife when I was 20, I didn't know anyone that didn't drink until fall down.
You've got the benefit of hindsight now, and you're looking back, and I just want to try and make sure that your view isn't coloured by the fact that we're not drinking now, and we're looking back to go, hey, even one drink was a dangerous, slippery slope for me, because I've got a different story. I would say that I wasn't an alcoholic for my drinking life for the first maybe decade. A large part of that, where I could have half a glass and put it down, and I'll go, no, I'm not going to drink today. I'm not interested in it, or have 1 or 2 and stop. And I look back and go, well, no, I didn't have a problem then. But I guess there's also the other lens I could look at it from and go, every drink is a slippery slope. And it probably did lead to me drinking to excess later on in life. Which one do you think you're looking at it from?
I never drank socially.
Never drank socially?
Not ever.
Okay.
Like I said, my first drink was a whole bottle of Black Douglas. Not we drank some Black Douglas. I drank a bottle of Black Douglas on my own.
So you never drank to be social. It was I want to drink to get drunk.
Absolutely.
That was always the goal.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. I look back and I reflect. I remember my dad telling me at around 19, we're at the local pub, and he said to me, you don't drink like other people. You drink to get drunk. And I remember being confused as hell. Like, what other reason is there?
Yeah.
If you're not drinking to get drunk, what the hell did you start for?
Yeah.
16, you got the benefit of being able to see me. Other people obviously listening can't, but I have a scar on the top of my head.
Yes, I can see that scar.
It's a 9-stitch scar.
Uh-huh.
And I ran around 3 to 4 kilometers to get into a fight with a guy who had a piece of wood in his hand at the time. And the argument had begun over about a quarter of a bottle of 20 port that was left. And he said it was his and I said it was mine.
Okay.
That was at 16.
I've got to ask, who got the last drink?
I got the last drink, but he got the last laugh.
Well, you got the 9 stitches.
I got the 9 stitches and 19 welts on my body where he hit me with the council stake while I was unconscious.
How old were you then?
16-ish, 17 maybe.
Okay. So, I mean, like, I'm doing the math, 48 years old.
Yep.
7 years, 11 months sober, came in at 40. That's a far cry from 16. So you were obviously living in active, active addiction.
26 years.
Yeah, for a fair amount of time. And if this started when you were 16, I guess it can be put down to youthful drinking and just hijinks and what young people get up to. How did you manage, I guess, your early adulthood life?
Oh, I didn't. Not very well.
Okay.
As I said, I had the benefit. I met my wife when we were 20. So we met at high school.
Yes.
But different social circles, knew of each other, but weren't friends in any way, shape or form. But we connected after high school at the local club, and we've been together ever since. And she is one of those weirdos that can have a half a glass of wine with dinner and tip the rest down the sink.
I hate those people.
Yeah, I don't understand. That's alcohol abuse.
Yeah.
It's not good.
It's abuse of alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely. And she can do that, right? And she's always been able to do that.
Yes.
I know today it's been incredibly difficult for her because she's the responsible one, in air quotes. She's the one that's looked after the money. She's the one that's made sure that the house was kept. She's the one that made sure that her oldest child, Nathan, was always looked after in some way, shape or form, monitored, checked on, see where he is, what he's doing. She needed to be vigilant.
Yes.
A lot of the time.
Yeah, because you didn't know what you'll be doing.
There's no idea what I could be doing anything.
All right. So the question here is, did you ever try and corrupt her, get her drunk and try and get her drinking more than what she should?
Oh, mate, yeah, I did. My best mate tried at my wife's 21st. He
Okay.
was trying to give her shots of Zambuca.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he was drunk at the time and she was just throwing them over her shoulder. And he just kept giving them to her and she's like, oh, God, you can drink. Yeah, she never drank one.
Yeah, I did the same thing with my wife. And look, I'll be honest with you. My wife, over the entire time I've known her, we've been married for over 16 years and we've known each other for a couple of years before then. She's drunk, I think in one solid skull, I've drunk more than she has in that entire time.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I used to try and get her drunk. I used to, here, try this, try that. She'd be like, have a sip. No, I'm not interested. It took her 20 minutes to finish a shot. You know those little shots that you used to buy with the spiral in them?
Yeah.
Where it's got like something green or whatever on one side and the thing on the other side?
The shot bucket, they called them.
Yeah, shot bucket. I got a few of those and we were camping once. And I'm like, here, try this. And it took her like 5 to 10 minutes literally to finish one of those shots. I'm like, you're not doing it right.
You're not. Why? Why are you doing that?
So I finished all of them and then I had to go to sleep early.
Hey, and it happens, right? I think in being with my wife 28 years.
Yes.
We've been married, celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary last year.
Sorry, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's outstanding.
In that time, I've seen her drunk once.
Okay.
And it was a complete accident and she will never do that again.
Okay.
And I know that, and she said that from that day, she will never be in that condition ever again.
Okay. That's amazing. How often would you drink?
That's one of the questions I hear a lot, right? And I hear one of the things that people get from being, they have this idea that being an alcoholic means you drink every day with a brown paper bag and an overcoat in the park.
Yes.
Right? I didn't drink every day only because, and, singleness of purpose with AA and all that sort of stuff, but I'm also a compulsive gambler. Early days in my wife and I's relationship, my wage went to her account because otherwise I would gamble it as soon as it hit the account.
Yes.
So for me to drink every day, I would have had to get money off her every day. And that's not a thing that's going to happen. It would be weekends when we first got together. It was drinking on the weekends, binge drinking heavily and so on. The older we got and the more financial we got, it would be, I'm going to one of the guys from work's got a birthday, and I worked in the city.
Yes.
And, so for me, it was once I got to work, it was like we were in different countries. She's out in the southwest, I'm in the city, and I'd ring her and say, listen, it's Michael's birthday. We're all going down to the pub after work and have a couple of drinks. And she's like, but it's Wednesday. Okay, no, that's fine. Don't worry about it. No, I'll only be there for an hour. And I would get home at 3:00 the next morning.
Yeah.
And all those sort of things. So the only reason I wasn't a daily drinker is because she wouldn't allow it.
Okay.
Right. She wouldn't have funded that. She wouldn't have given me the money out of my wage or to be able to borrow off people to pay it back or whatever. She wouldn't have done that. Otherwise I would have been a daily drinker. If I can't get drunk, I'm not having a drink.
Well, there's no point.
Right. I'm not going to have one.
Yes.
That's ridiculous to me. But by the end of my drinking, I would get a case of beer to mow my lawn, right? And it takes me 2 and a bit hours to whip a snip and mow my lawn, and that case would be gone.
Yes.
And I would be saying to Sharon, my wife, babe, the football's on this afternoon. I'm going to need more beer, right? And I would drink another half a case of beer that afternoon. So my tolerance was so big that, for me to be drunk is, $80, $100. It's not sneak out to the car and drink half a bottle of wine or a half a bottle of vodka or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a large quantity.
Okay, that makes more sense now, yeah. Because I was comparing it to myself. I'd probably, by the end, by the time I'd stopped, my tolerance was probably definitely higher than the average person, but I'd need about 3 bottles of wine to get there. But Audi sell wine for $3.72 at the time.
Yeah.
So all I needed was $10.
And you're sorted.
Good to go. What I find amazes me about alcoholics is that even now today, I can tell you how many standard drinks are in a lot of the alcohol around, because it was like, that's better value because I've done the maths on it. That gives me more standard drinks. This fortified wine might taste like crap, but it gives me more standard drinks for a cheaper cost and a less volume. So the whole idea was the cheapest you could get with the most potency you could get. You mentioned something which reminded me of something I hadn't thought about in a very long time. When I first started coming into the rooms and I was discussing with my sponsor about alcohol, I said, look, it might get to the stage where I'd drunk a couple of bottles of wine and I'd find the bottle that I'd hid still had half a bottle in it. I said, I was not able to throw that away.
No.
Because it was sacred.
Why would you?
Exactly. Like, I would sit there and look at it and go, that's not enough to get me drunk. So I wasn't interested in it. But I knew that when I added another thing to it, it's a good start.
Yeah.
And
it's the emergency wine.
Yeah, the emergency wine.
That's enough to get me to the bottle shop to get the real stuff.
Just, get your head off the pillow sometimes.
Yeah, man. When I was not around Sharon, my wife,
yes,
the handbrake had been taken off or the leash had been slipped. If there was ever a situation where she had gone somewhere or she was away or, she wasn't at the house overnight.
Yes.
It's a free-for-all.
Yes.
If she had gone away for a week, I would be drunk for a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was only exactly that she was around that stopped it.
No, it's amazing. You're mentioning stuff. It's bringing a whole heap of stuff back to my memory. I was exactly the same. I was like, finally, she's gone. She's gone to visit her parents for a week or 4 days. She's away for the weekend. I'll go, I can buy this, I can buy that, stock it up in the fridge so I'm not drinking warm beer out of the back of the car.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So what lengths did you go to hide your drinking?
Because as I said, I grew up with people that drank like me and I hung out with people who drank like me. So I didn't really, I'm not one of those people that actually hid it as such. Like I would put, the empties in the bottom of the recycling bin and so hide how many I've had. But Sharon knew that we had bought a case that morning.
And it's gone. So
she knew that, and there's no one else here but me and her.
And she didn't drink it.
She didn't drink it.
The dog wasn't drinking it.
The dog's still walking fine. So it's not a question of, it's either that or I tip some of them on the grass, and she knows that that's not going to be a thing.
Yeah.
So she sort of knew how much I was drinking. But as I said, because my tolerance was quite high, even when I was pretty young, my tolerance was pretty high.
Yes.
It wasn't obvious, I don't think. I say that, but other people probably knew. But
yeah.
My tolerance, I just didn't seem drunk.
Yeah,
so
I get it.
How much I had drunk, people really didn't know.
I think in our culture, we see that as almost a matter of pride. Like, I can handle my drink. My tolerance is so high. I can have, double what you can and I still walk in a straight line. And we put that on a pedestal, but that's not a good thing.
No, it's not. It's alcohol. I mean, at its core, alcohol's a poison.
Yes.
Right. And anything in moderation is good. It doesn't matter, but it's a poison. And we credit, Michael's a bigger man than me because he can put more poison in his body than I can.
Yeah.
It's insane when you say it that way. It's the culture of this country, and it doesn't really matter what part of this country you're from.
Yeah.
It's the same all over.
And I don't know why, but one of the things I've always wanted to reflect on is the amount of drinking we see in TV And I don't know about you, I watch cartoons habitually. And so I grew up on The Simpsons.
Yep, same.
There's at least 3 alcoholic characters in The Simpsons.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you got Barney, who's the only one that's actually recognized as an alcoholic, but Homer's...
There's no doubt Homer's an alcoholic.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely... And like, there's even episodes going to him, you know, they're trying hard to stop drinking and going, look...
The 30-day one where Homer gives up drinking for 30 days.
Yeah,
and his hands shaking when he's crossing out the days.
He's freaking out and stuff. Again, it's not seen as a problem. It's almost seen as a weakness when you give it up.
Absolutely.
When it's the exact opposite. But then if you go on to other cartoons, Futurama, Bender, alcoholic.
Absolutely.
You know, there's
Family Guy, Peter Griffin.
Yep, and his wife,
Lois,
yeah, alcoholic, drug addicts,
and the father.
Yep,
Lois's father.
Yeah, they're all alcoholics, and you sit there and go, we are normalizing something that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
We are making it every day, and what got me, and I didn't tossing up whether I should do something about this or not, because I don't want to be that guy to ruin it for everybody. But my son was at Cadets. Cadets is a program dedicated to children under 18 to get an experience of the Defence Force. And when people get over 18, they kind of graduate them out because they're not allowed to be involved anymore. Now, at the final parade last year, they had a gift to give them, and it was an engraved beer mug when they pass out. And I was there going, before, when I was drinking, I was like, oh, that's cool. No drama about that. Then I'm going, because all the children that are there are seeing that and saying it's like a rite of passage. I'm 18 now. I get to drink, and it's acceptable and it's encouraged. I'm going, surely there are other things that we could do.
I have a similar conversation with people around gambling, right? And
yep,
I think that sometimes we get a little bit too sensitive to things like that. You could give my son a beer mug for his birthday, and 1, he'd probably never use it, and 2, it's not going to have any impact on whether or not he is a drinker or not.
Yes.
But we kind of look at it and go, wow, why are we doing that? We're going to turn them into alcoholics, or we're normalizing being alcoholic. It doesn't affect people the way it affects us.
Yes.
Right? And it's the same when I say with gambling. I've had people tell me that we should ban all gambling. And I'm like, why? 95% of the people in this world do it sensibly, right? When I say sensibly, they don't lose their paycheck every week, and they may lose a big amount here and there, but not consistent, and they gamble responsibly, I guess is the words they use today.
Yeah.
Just because I don't and can't, that doesn't mean that other people can't. You know what I mean? And,
you know, I guess our life is coloured by our experiences, and we look at things through those lenses. But yeah, like I said, I looked at that and I was like, oh.
It is interesting. But
it's an interesting thing. And again, I don't want to be that guy. Oh, someone made a complaint, so we ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, now everyone's going to get a book.
A book on, military history, which no one will read.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
No one cares about, so it's just like I said, I don't know what the balance is in a lot of these things.
If we had any idea about balance, Michael, we wouldn't be in AA.
That's true. It's all half measures of ale is nothing. Huh?
Exactly right.
Hi everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the show so far. This podcast is all about sharing real stories of resilience, recovery, and hope. Stories that remind us that we're not alone in this journey. If you'd like to support this work and help us reach more people, there are a few simple ways you can make a difference. Take a moment to like this episode, leave a comment, or share it with someone who you think might benefit from hearing it. Whether it's a friend, family member, or somebody in your recovery community. Your support could touch the lives and inspire someone in their road to sobriety. Your stories are important. They remind us that we are not alone and help us all stay sober. What we're doing here creates a space where people can share their experiences, feel understood, and find inspiration to keep moving forward. By supporting the show, you're helping to amplify those voices and ensure that more people who need to find this message can. If you'd like to share your story and be interviewed, please email me at beyondsobrietyaa@gmail.com. Every journey is unique, and your experience could be exactly what someone needs to hear to find hope, strength, or inspiration. This podcast thrives on real stories from real people, and your voice has the power to make a difference in somebody's life. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to connect and discuss how your story can be a part of Beyond Sobriety. Thank you for your support. Together we can continue to make a difference. Now, let's get back to the episode. What was your rock bottom experience?
It's funny, I looked at this one. This was one of the questions that I really thought about. And I say this often. Rock bottom for me is, for anyone, is the moment when you decide to stop digging.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you want to, there's always further down. There's no limit to how far down I could have gone. And I guess what people would describe as a high functioning alcoholic, what I think Bill Wilson refers to in the big book as the high bottom drunk. You know, I had and have always had a job. I've lost many jobs, but I've always been able to find a new one. I've got the house, the car, the wife, the kids, all that sort of stuff. There was no like rock bottom where I lost everything and this is shit. 23rd of December, 2016. I was supposed to go out for dinner with my wife. I think we had 1 or 2 children. 2? No, I don't know how many. We had some kids. And
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's not important to the story.
The listeners don't care.
No, they don't. And her friend and her son.
Yep.
It was the last day of work before Christmas, and I went to the pub to have a couple of beers with the guys from work, and then we're going to go home because we did a half day at work. And I managed to get home about 20 minutes after everyone had left to go out for dinner.
Yep.
Right, with my phone turned off and everything, because there was no way that I'd had one drink. There's no chance of me coming home and going out for dinner with people.
Yeah.
So I got home and we've got a little floor safe in the bedroom that we had some money stored in, and I got into that.
Okay.
And I cleaned it out.
Yep.
And disappeared for the night. You know, it's a lot of things happened that night. You know, I got a phone call from a mate of mine's wife who told me that he just got diagnosed with cancer. And for me, and this is one of the sickest things that I've ever had in my life still, my head said, now I've got an excuse.
Mm. Yeah.
Right. So I have to go and pick him up and we have to go and have a drink to commiserate for him being diagnosed with cancer.
Mm.
So I rounded up a couple of mates. We went to Liverpool Catholic Club and I was out until 4:00 the next morning. And when I got home, my bags were packed. My wife said she'd had enough.
Mm.
You know, and at the time, so she owns a childcare centre. She still owns it today. And there's a little unit above that her mum lives in.
Mm.
That year, her mum had a brain aneurysm and had surgery. So she was staying out here with us. So the unit was empty. So that's where I was for 3 days. I was here for my kids' Christmas, but I wasn't really, because I was, you know, again, I drove away from here going, handbrakes off, party time.
Yeah.
Right. And the problem with that is if you let me drink and do all the other things that come with that without restriction, money doesn't last very long.
Mm.
Right. And so by the 26th of December, I was broke.
Yep.
And I woke up on the 26th and I had a realization, I guess, is that I can't continue to live this way, but I don't know how to live any other way. Right. Because I've been living this way since I was 14.
Yeah.
So if I can't live another way and I can't live this way, I guess I just have to kill myself. And that was the decision that I had made. And I walked down the stairs at the childcare centre and I walked out to get in my car to basically come out here and say goodbye to my family. Obviously not telling them that I was saying goodbye to them, but for me, see them for the last time. And when I started the car, an ad for South Pacific Private was the first thing that came out of the radio. And I remember at the time going, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. And if it works, great.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, I can do what I was going to do after that.
Mm.
You know, thank God it worked. You know, so that was, when you say rock bottom, that was where I decided to stop digging.
I think there's too many of us in the rooms that suicide is something that I think generally society they're kind of scared of. And when they hear that word, they cringe. But what is sad about our situation is that most of us have contemplated it. Some of us have tried it. And even worse is that there's a number of us that have succeeded.
Oh, yeah. In the first year and a half, 2 years of my recovery, when I got out of rehab, I went to five or six funerals.
Yes.
For people in programs that I'm a part of that took their own lives. So
what was your first experience with AA like?
It's funny, right? I was at SPP and they at the time they would bus us out for meetings.
Okay.
Right. So we would, 20 people on a bus go to an AA meeting in Manly Vale or a GA meeting in Crow's Nest or whatever. And I guess I was lucky enough to be completely and utterly broken. I knew that I didn't know how to live.
Yep.
So I was open to a new idea, and we went to this meeting, and I can't remember. It was either it was somewhere over the Northern Beaches anyway. And it was huge. This meeting was huge. There would have been at minimum 60 people in this room.
That is a big meeting.
It was a huge meeting. And I remember sitting there, and by the time it got to about 3/4 of the way through, I've already identified with everybody in the room.
Yep.
You know, I started to get annoyed that I hadn't been asked to share yet, because I've got some really, really important things that you people will benefit from hearing. And I remember I walked out and sat out on the stairs. I missed the last 15, 20 minutes of the meeting because I was so angry that they hadn't asked me to share.
Mate, they could have asked you to share in that last 15 minutes.
I really doubt it. You know, I was 4 days in rehab. I have nothing to offer anyone. You know, and 4 days in rehab and 6 days clean and sober.
Oh, man.
You know, I had nothing to offer anyone.
But you thought you did. I love it.
And my sponsor will tell you, you know, that my ego would enter the room about half hour before I did. It was a massive, massive ego with a tiny, tiny little self-esteem behind it. You know, I honestly thought, I've learned some stuff at rehab. I can help you people.
Yep.
You poor bastards, let me share and I'll help you. You know, people sharing with 30 years sobriety and I'm 6 days. I'll help you out. You know, it was nuts.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they didn't ask me to share.
Well, you know what? I'm glad that offense, you know, it's not offense. I'm sorry. That perceived offense didn't prevent you from coming back, though.
And when we say look for the similarities and not the differences, right? And, you know, again, for people that can't see me, I'm about 6'2", about 100 kilos, shaved head, tattoos. If I can identify...
Big scar on your head.
Big scar on my head, one
fella.
off, there's 5 or 6. If I can identify with a 65-year-old housewife from the Northern Beaches, you know, there are enough similarities for anyone to identify with anyone in this program.
No, absolutely.
There's enough differences. If I want to pick the differences, I can, right? But I was broken enough to just do what I was told. Whatever they told me to do at South Pacific, I just did it. It didn't really matter. And I walked in there, man, and you know, this may cover off some stuff we'll cover off later, but I walked in there as an agnostic atheist, right, into rehab. And they told me, you know, I needed to find a higher power. And I went, cool, show me how. I knew that I didn't have any answers.
AA is definitely the great equalizer.
It is.
I never thought that I would have so much in common with such a variety of different people.
Oh, it's nuts.
We're one family.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that I can sit with a fellow alcoholic who, on the surface, people would look at us and go, they have nothing in common, and we can talk for hours.
Oh, and never miss a beat.
Exactly. Let's use this as an example. We were chatting for about 20 minutes before we started this recording. We're well over halfway through. I wouldn't say before this day I've said 2 words to you.
No. And it's funny because I remember you.
Yeah?
From early days.
I don't remember you.
I remember you. You were the guy with the notepad.
Yes, it's here. This one.
No.
Sorry, it's a different one.
It was a notepad.
Yeah,
it was like
notepad.
A pen and paper notepad.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, the hell is this guy writing down? What is he taking? Is he studying? Is he writing a paper on AA? Or
I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And how'd that go? Not well, I assume.
Well, I'll be honest. I lost the notepad, but I did find it recently, and it had all my step work in there. So I would have step 1 and I'd go through all this stuff and I'd write a page on it and different observations. And I brought the notepad to the meetings because people would come out with these such wise sayings and I've got to write that down. And it wasn't until about 6 or 7 months in that I was like going, oh, these are just the general sayings that everyone says. I thought they're having an epiphany. I was at the seat of Gandhi or whatever. You know,
they're a genius.
Oh my God, how did they figure this out? But then it's like, I look to my right. Oh, it's on the freaking wall, you idiot.
It was like, mate, I tell you, I credit my primary therapist in rehab, right? Said the opposite of addiction is not abstinence, it's connection. And I thought he was Jesus, Gandhi, and Albert Einstein rolled into one.
All rolled together.
Yeah, no, it wasn't him.
Yeah.
It was Gabor Mate that said that. And
okay. Is that another one you're just making up? Or
no, Gabor Mate is one of the big speakers on addiction and recovery and all that sort of stuff. And one of the lines that he's credited with coming up with. But everyone says it. And it's Rehab 101 is that's what they tell you. But I thought this guy was a genius.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, you're so smart.
See, I was under the impression when I first came to AA that AA will get me sober, I won't drink again, and then I'll leave AA. And that's honestly what
Graduate.
I thought I'm done, I'm good. And about 6-7 months, I started I didn't come for months at a time. I wasn't drinking. I stayed in contact with my sponsor, and I'm really glad he gave me the space to figure that out myself, because I don't take instruction well. So
Really?
really.
So you're one of us then?
So some people are very aggressive with it, but he wasn't. It's like, all right, take your time, whatever. But what I found is that I miss people. I miss the connection, because as lovely as my wife is, she doesn't get it.
No.
And she never will.
We hope they never will, right?
No.
Because the only person that gets an alcoholic is an alcoholic.
Yeah, I don't wish it on anybody.
For me, the rooms, and I hate the saying, and I hear it a lot in a lot of programs, is that meetings make it, right? Meetings are the core of the program, and they're not, right? Not for me anyway. And the way I look at it, and the way my sponsor talked to me about it, is the meetings are a great place to find a sponsor,
yes,
find some running mates, and get a tribe.
Yep.
Right? And they're essential, those three. But if you're not working the program, you're just hanging out with mates once a week.
Yeah.
Right? And I say you cannot sit in a garage for a couple of hours once a week and expect to become a car.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
What's one of your high points in sobriety?
I looked at this, right? There's two, and I separate them, right? So the recovery high point, I guess, if you want to call it the recovery high point, is I got to go last year to Founders Day, right, in Akron, Ohio. And everybody listening to this is going, Akron, what the hell? Right? And Akron is actually quite a famous town for tires. There's the Goodyear factory there. There's the Siebelring factory there. Big tire money there. But anyway, that's also where Dr. Bob Smith was living. Right. And that is where the creation of Alcoholics Anonymous came from.
Yep.
Right. Dr. Bob met with Bill Wilson in the Siebelring Gatehouse Manor in Akron, Ohio.
Okay.
And that's where they first met, and that's where they first started the whole AA started right there and then.
Yep.
And I got to go to Founders Day, which is a celebration of that. And it's huge. Akron University, there was like 10,000 people there. 10,000 people doing an AA meeting at the same time is insane. And I got to go there with my sponsor.
Wow.
We went to Dr. Bob's house. We went to the Siebelring Gatehouse. We went to Stepping Stones, which is where Bill Wilson and Lois Wilson lived while they were writing the Big Book.
Okay.
I sat at the desk that Bill Wilson sat at to write the Big Book. What an amazing, amazing journey. We were gone for 10 days.
Outstanding.
Me and my sponsor, we did New York. And it's hilarious. I rang my travel agent and said, look, I want to book a trip to Akron, Ohio. And she said, where? And she's been a travel agent for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's like, what? No, I've never booked anyone there before. Just an amazing experience. Outside of recovery, outside of, I guess, the rooms position, the relationship I have with my wife and kids.
Yeah.
I was not present, physically present in their lives, but not mentally and emotionally present. And today, I can have a conversation with my son. He's 17 years old, which is 3 years older than I was when I started drinking. And he's a more responsible human at 17 than I am at 48. I can talk to my wife about things without it degenerating into an argument every time. We've had some arguments in recovery, but nothing like what it was when I was in addiction. I would start a fight with her, so she would yell at me and scream at me, and then I could run out and slam the door and go off to the pub, and it was her fault.
I have to say, I've never met your wife. No idea who she is at all. But for any person to stick with any other person over a period like that through what you've described is outstanding.
Mate,
and it's unheard of in today's society.
It is. And look, I said this about her and I've said it to her.
Yep.
Right? So this is not talking out of school. I said, she's either a saint or an idiot.
It's one or the other.
And she will tell you she's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B.
I'm thinking about my son's generation and yours as well. They're going to grow up with these absolute idiot influences on their phone, telling them what an alpha male is and what a high value woman is and all this. And then you got the women out there going, if your man's not making this or doing this, you got to kick him to the curb and relationships these days are so transactional. It's like, what do you bring to the table? What have you got that I can have? And all that absolute crap. And the more I go on in my relationship, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, is that it is nothing like that. To have a long lasting, and you said you're married for what, 26 years?
We've been married 20 years last year, been together 28.
Yeah. So you've had a marriage that lasted longer than most people of that demographic have been alive. And I thank God for my wife going, you know what? She's seen me at my worst.
Yeah.
And gone, there's something wrong with this guy, but I know that there's a man under there that I love, and I'm waiting for that to come back.
Without Sharon, I'd be dead.
Yeah.
There's absolutely zero doubt.
No, my wife saved my life.
I'll tell you what is ridiculous in this program, and in this program and sister programs that I'm involved in.
Yep.
The amount of stories like that I hear.
Mm.
Like I know a guy who was standing on a cliff, essentially, in an area in a national park with zero service, and his daughter, who was 5 at the time, was playing around with my mate's mum's Apple Watch.
Yep.
And accidentally sent him a voice memo that somehow with no service got through to him, and he didn't jump.
Yeah, there's definitely God moments like that.
Oh, they're everywhere, and I think either God loves alcoholics or it happens across many, many people's lives, and we just, through the program, through the work that we do or whatever, are better able to recognize it for what it is, rather than just a coincidence.
Look, I've got a theory on it, but it's very religious, so I'm not sure if our listeners would appreciate it.
It sounds like a them problem, though.
Yeah, well, in that case, I'll share it, and I'll let them sort it out. The way I see it is that the Bible talks about the devil coming to kill, steal, and destroy. And so everything that is of death and leads to death and destruction ultimately has his hand in it.
Okay.
And God, by definition, is the opposite. An advocate for life, for salvation, for goodness. And so anything that leads us towards death has, like, even at the very slightest, at the start, will have that element of, I guess the devil in it. And then you got God is the opposite. So when we're at that point, when I was at that point in the car, when your friend was at the point in the cliff, and we can talk about other people that have been
when I was at that point in my car when the radio came on.
Absolutely. It's that God speaks in whispers, and it's like, I can lead you back to life. And you just you have that little moment where you go, I could go one way or the other way.
Yeah. And I call them, right, and I didn't coin this phrase. I'll put that straight out there.
Sure.
I'm not going to claim it, but I love it. And it's the moments of grace.
Yeah, the moments of grace.
And I talk about it like, to make it very easy for people to understand, if you've got 300 circles cut out of paper,
yep,
right, and in each of those circles, there is a 1 millimeter gap.
Yep.
Right, and you spin those circles randomly, maybe those gaps will line up once in 10 years.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll line up every day. It's so random, right? But what I know today is I don't know how many of those moments of grace I didn't see or didn't take advantage of when I was active. But I also don't know when the next one's coming. And I know that SPP ad coming out of the radio was a moment of grace.
Yeah.
And if I didn't grab that, I don't know if there would have been another one.
Yes.
And I try and tell people this, especially newcomers to the program, right, is you're here. The next moment of grace, if you walk out of this door, the next moment of grace may never come.
Yeah.
And you may never, ever be able to walk back through the door. And the scary part is that a friend or a younger brother of a friend, I saw them at the home group that we both, I used to share with you. And I saw him there.
Yep.
And I gave him my number. And he never called me. It was about 2 weeks later he committed suicide. We just don't know when that next moment is going to come, if at all.
Yes.
So take them when they're there.
It's very true. What advice do you have for people struggling with addiction?
Take that moment of grace.
What else? What other advice?
You don't have to lose everything to start recovery.
Yes.
Right? You don't need to blow up your life to look for something better. Walking in the rooms of AA, and as I said, I was blessed. I came in through rehab, so I walked into my first meeting with 15, 16 other people. Right? I didn't walk in on my own. We were all in the same boat. So we walked in like a group.
Yep.
To walk through the doors of AA on your own takes massive, massive amounts of courage. It's the second meeting that takes more courage.
Yeah.
Right? Make your second meeting. And if you can make it to your second meeting, you'll probably make your third.
That's a really good point. I had a friend who was a paratrooper, and what he said was most people think it's scary to jump out of the airplane for the first time. He goes, but you have more people stopping at the door the second time because they know what they're in for.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely guaranteed. And recovery is a wild ride.
Yes.
I say that recovery is hard, right? Addiction's hard. Pick your hard.
Yeah, choose your hard.
Whichever hard it is. I mean, either way, it's going to be difficult. And the cool part about this program is it's not easy, but it's simple.
Yes. People get that confused a lot.
I say a lot that going into South Pacific saved my life. There's no doubt about it. That 28, 29 day break where I wasn't able to drink or use or gamble or do anything like that was what I needed. But if I hadn't gone into the program when I came out, the life that was saved would have been wasted.
Absolutely.
You know, I found a higher power, whatever that is, I don't know, but I found something to believe in that's not me.
Yeah.
And saved my life and keeps me saved on a daily basis.
Well, look, Nathan, thank you so much for sharing your story. Why don't you close us off with a serenity prayer?
I'd love to. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Thanks, Nathan.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you for joining us today on Beyond Sobriety. Just before we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with a gentle reminder. If you happen to recognize anyone who shared their story on this podcast, I urge you to respect their anonymity and privacy. Let's create a safe space where individuals can feel empowered to share their experience without fear of judgment or disclosure. And if you found today's episode helpful or inspiring, I encourage you to share Beyond Sobriety with somebody who might benefit from it. Together, we can spread awareness, support, and hope to those still struggling with alcohol addiction. Remember, your feedback is invaluable to us. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, or stories you'd like to share, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at beyondsobrietyaa@gmail.com. Thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, stay strong, stay sober, and remember, you're not alone in this journey. I'm Michael, and I'm an alcoholic.